Hello, this is Chaplain Arig. I am responding to Hunter's questions, which he passed along through his professor, Reverend Pamela. I appreciate y'all's interest in understanding the Muslim faith more, and I just thought I'd do a video response because I have some things that I wanted to point out visually. So here we go. Hunter asked, how can we as chaplains help ensure the patient's ability to engage in the 5 prayers a day? I'm thinking about a setting that may not be recognizing or respecting the timing of the prayers. Yes, and you're very correct in your assumption that obviously not everyone has it on their mind that there are 5 prayers. Usually the Muslim is aware of them. They either have an app that has the call to prayer, or it's just kind of a running thought in their mind that there's a prayer coming up at all times. So to help facilitate that, it is important to advocate for the Muslim patient or whatever it is your audience. If you're at a school, your students, and let administration know that there is this need and that they do require to wash before each prayer. So definitely access to a washroom, a place to perform your wudu or ablution before you pray, which consists of washing the hands, the face, the hair, the arms, the feet. So it is a pretty comprehensive, it's not a bath or a shower, but it's a pretty comprehensive wash. And so you do need access to a place to wash as well as a private and quiet place to pray. So this can be the patient's room. If you're sharing a room, then it needs to be a place preferably where there's just quiet and it's clean, not a lot of foot traffic, a place where you can, easily have enough space to lay a prayer mat. If there's a chapel or a spiritual life place, that's great, but sometimes the patient is not able to travel there, so just making sure that there's a place close by for them to perform those prayers. As you know, there's 5 prayers a day. There's sunrise, noon, afternoon, sunset, and nighttime, and the sunset and the nighttime prayers can be kind of back to back, so it's important to kind of be mindful of that time. So if they're running on a schedule, it could be hard to continuously disrupt, or if they're maybe going on a trip, or if I'm thinking about a school or some elder care center, or if they're in the hospital even, it may be that they need a nap, so maybe have the nap be at a time where it's after a prayer is performed, so they have enough time to nap before the next prayer is due. So really talking that through is important, and they might be surprised that someone's taking as much interest, because typically in the Islamic tradition they don't like to be heavy burdens on anyone. They have this really strict hospitality concept that you don't want to be an inconvenience, but that's one of the great things about living in this country is you have this religious freedom and the ability to be accommodated, and that's a wonderful thing. And so I think they'll open up once you start asking them what their needs are, so you can definitely help by ensuring the space. Again, you might want to have prayer rugs on hand. They might have their own, or you might want to provide them with some. And now in COVID days, it's kind of tricky because they might not want to reuse the same rug over and over. And so there have been things like this that have been made. This is just like a personal thing to put on the floor, just so you can, when you bow down, you have like somewhere to rest your head, so it's not directly on the floor. These have been passed along in schools and hospitals and all kinds of places. So this would be something that they can keep with them at all times if they don't have their own prayer mat, or if you're able to invest a little bit more, there are these portable mats. So this is kind of a cloth mat, but it's foldable, it's portable, it comes in a bag. You can use the bag or not, it's lightweight. You can pass these out and again have them keep it, or you can reuse them depending on what the protocols are where you are. And then I just wanted to show you the typical prayer mat. Let's see, got here. Oh, I think I have it already laid out on the floor. Let's see. So this is your typical prayer mat. it comes in all kinds of designs. The designs don't really mean anything. I mean, they just have different prints on them. But you do want to help them find where the direction of Mecca is, because that's the direction of the prayer. So I know for sure in here we pray that away. And so you lay out the prayer mat facing the direction of Mecca, and you're probably like, how am I going to find the direction of Mecca? It's easy. There's also an app on the phone. You just kind of take the phone, you twirl it around a little bit to kind of reset the GPS tracker, and it really points you. If you're in the U.S., it's east. So this app is amazing. It has the Adhan app, which tells you what the timing of the prayers are. It tells you where the Qibla is, or the direction of Mecca. It even has like Qur'ans in it, so a lot of people read Qur'an on their telephone now. But it just depends on the patient. Some might not want to. Some might want actual Qur'an. And so after they pray, typically, while you're praying, you're reading Qur'an, and you're kind of spiritually kind of trying to get your mind off of everything. But you might want to read from the Qur'an, or you might want to, after the prayer, read some Qur'an. And so that's another thing you should have on hand. And I brought here some samples. So, this is kind of the average size Quran. The writing is legible to the average person. If you do want something portable, or if you want something that you can give to them, there is like smaller sizes of them, and this comes in like a zipper pouch. This is kind of like a soft chamois cover. The writing on this is pretty small, so you want to make sure that they can read it. This was entirely in Arabic. There are English and Arabic Qur'ans, so you might want to ask them, do they read Arabic? Do they want a Qur'an in English and Arabic, or one or the other? I kind of discourage the only English one, just because sometimes the translation is like an old English translation. So there's a lot of translations of the Quran. There's just one Arabic version of the Quran. So I typically like at least the Arabic to be there, because people are at various levels of learning Arabic if they're Muslim. And so it's good to have it. So this is an example of an English and Arabic Quran. And so you'll see, well, this is kind of like the introduction to the surah, but you'll have like this page. It has like English and Arabic together. And so this page is just like an introduction to the next chapter. So it's all in English, but typically on a typical page, you'll have both the English and the Arabic kind of side by side. Here's the page. So on each page, there's English and Arabic. So you can kind of match it up. So just like, Muslims vary in their levels of adherence, they also vary in their knowledge of Arabic. And so you might have an Arab who doesn't really know Arabic language. They just know how to speak it, but they never really learn how to read or write, especially if they were raised in the West. Or you might have someone from Pakistan who is very competent in their Arabic and learned it from a very young age, because they went to school back home to learn Arabic, and they can read it entirely in Arabic. And so that's something that you might want to ask them too, the kind of Quran, the prayer rug, obviously. But helping them advocate for themselves, I feel like that's what you're asking, and helping them give you a better understanding of their needs. And for you to be that, point person to advocate for them and what their needs are, because they might not be as outspoken, or they might not even know they have such a right, to advocate for themselves, or they might not know that there is this, resource or facility to accommodate them. So I think that's a great thing for you to really be the champion and make sure that their needs are met. I think that really goes a long way, especially if they're a patient at a hospital. I know that makes a huge difference in them feeling spiritually cared for, and it has of course an effect on the emotional, mental, physical well-being of the person, if they feel like they're loved and they're connected also to their creator. So I'm going to go back to your question, make sure I don't miss anything. So how important is that the prayers happen at a specific time? So you do have that gap between each prayer and the next to pray the prayer. So you do have, a couple of hours or so, maybe a little bit more, just depending on where you live. So the gaps between the prayer times differ depending on where you are in the world. Like sometimes in Alaska, it's sunlight all day. And so, you have bigger gaps. And so it is important to pray it on time, though. I mean, the prayer is really for the person, not for God. God obviously doesn't need our prayers, but it's really meant to be a respite and a relaxation. And there's actually a prophetic line that's quoted a lot, and it's basically the prophet saying, comfort us with it, oh Bilal. And Bilal is the caller of the prayer. He's the one who kind of did the call out for everybody come pray. And he's like, okay, we need to pray now. Like let's get on with it. We're getting tired here, or we're getting worked up. And so prayer is a respite and a relief. It's time to meditate. I mean, it's time to reflect, to just kind of let go of everything and be in another whole awareness level. And it's a meeting with God, and so it should be taken seriously. Obviously, God wants you to pray on time and honor that time. In mosques, usually they give about a 15-minute window for people to come in if they're coming in from their homes or whatnot, and to do the wash. And so they have usually posted what time the prayer is and what time the call to prayer is and what time the actual prayer is going to start, so that people know. And it's usually about 15 minutes. So prioritizing praying on time is important. Let's see. How important is that the person has space to stand and kneel if they're able to? That's also very important. If you're physically able to do that, then you should pray standing up. If you can't, you can pray sitting down. If you can't pray sitting down, you can pray lying down. And most people are aware of that kind of stipulation that God makes. So there's always exceptions to any rule, right? So even during Ramadan and fasting, some people, if they're very sick, they don't fast. So similarly, if you can't pray standing up, you can pray sitting down, and you just do the movements like kind of modified. So instead of prostrating, you'll just kind of go like this with your head. Instead of going, all the way down to bow, you would just go all the way down, with your head. So you make similar movements, but with your head. And if you're sleeping, if you're laying down, you make those movements with your eyelids. And so you could be completely out of it and be in bed, and then just kind of move your eyelids a little bit halfway, and then up, and then all the way down to a blink, and then halfway again. So you kind of imitate the movements that you would be making with your body with your eyes. And people in hospitals usually do this a lot because they're laying down. They're not able to get up, or it's a risk. So definitely, God gives the the ability to do that, because He doesn't want us to struggle or suffer too much because of that requirement. And it's really just a mindfulness for us. Really, it's not really like an offering. It's more of something that He designed for us to take care of ourselves, and so it's seen as such. Let's see, the next question. If they're not physically able, is there some other accommodation that would satisfy the person's ability to pray in this way? Yes, I think we just talked about that. Is it important for a Muslim patient to have their own room for privacy of the prayers? Yeah, definitely. Not just because you want a clean place where there's not a lot of foot traffic and kind of mud and things like that. You want a place where you're not very conscious about is someone going to walk in? Is someone going to pass by? Is someone going to ask me what I'm doing? Am I interrupting the flow of traffic or something? You want a place where you can meditate, just think of it as that, someone wants a private place where they can have some quietude and some reflection. And so it is important, especially for women. I recommend them having their private room in hospitals, because sometimes they just want to take off their scarf, they want to take off their jackets or their long sleeve, just want to dress in whatever, and because there's people coming and going, or if you're sharing a room, maybe you have guests from the other patient that are coming and going. And so even though medical professionals are fine to see a woman's hair if she's covered or not, you have that ability with medical professionals to take off your hijab or whatnot. But for the typical traffic, you don't want to be exposed in that way, and it just gives you more ability to focus when there's not a lot of people coming and going. And so that privacy is pretty important. So hopefully there's a chapel or something, or maybe a room in every building or on every floor or something where they kind of designate for that. I can remember the same kind of conversations coming up with nursing, when I had to nurse and pump for my child, and finding a place. And not every building, not every workplace has somewhere for nursing moms, and they're starting to be better about that. And then, is a prayer rug something that a chaplain should have on hand to lend? Yes, definitely. But during COVID, it gets tricky. So I recommend, getting maybe some of these or something similar. Even like, it doesn't have to be like, you can think of anything that could just provide like just a little mat, that you can rest your head on it, or you can invest in those, portable ones, like I showed you here. I mean, Amazon has all kinds of them, so it just depends on your budget. But it would be great to be aware of that need, and then have them. And nowadays people are becoming more comfortable, so you might want to just get regular prayer rugs. Some of them are very padded too, so I know people with joint issues, they like to pray on those padded mats, so almost like yoga mats. So it's helpful to have different kinds of mats, just like it's helpful to have different kinds of Qurans, to accommodate more people, and to just let them know that, like, we understand your needs. I think that really goes a long way, that the human need to be understood, and to be appreciated, and to have your faith be, acknowledged and really tended to. I think that's amazing. So, and I think that would go a long way in them feeling better soon. So I hope that I answered your questions. If there are any other questions that you have, or if there's something that I didn't answer specifically the way that you had wanted to pose it, just let me know. I'm happy to help out. And one more thing. I think I had a rosary, I think they call it. In Arabic, they call it a sibha. So it's just, prayer beads. People like to have these too. These can be something that's unique, individual. They can be given as gifts. They also have them on Amazon, not very expensive at all. But it's good because it's something that you can touch and hold and have with you, like at the bedside or wherever it is you go. That's helpful. So some people like to have these around, they can kind of like wear them. Or some people actually do the remembrance, because that's what you do with them. You just like go around saying like, God is great, God is great, God is great, God is great. And so some people do it actually on their fingers. So if you look at your hand, you see how like every finger is split into like 3. There's like a little line right here and like a line right here. People will just count using these things, like God is great, God is great, God is great, and that's 3. God is great, God is great, God is great, and they'll just like use their hand as like a counting, tool, and that's pretty cool too. Most people know that. Most Muslims know that, to do that. But some people again like to have just something to hold. So that could be something good to have on hand as well. And with that, I hope I answered your questions, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks. Take care. Bye bye.